If Congress does nothing and those trust funds are depleted sometime around 2033, that's when there would be only sufficient tax revenues to pay about 80% of benefits.
Social Security expert Mary Beth Franklin on maximizing Social Security benefits and an assessment of the serious challenges facing them.
Funding provided by Clearbridge Investments, the Fairholme Foundation, First Eagle Investments, Bill Miller, Baird, Strategas Asset Management, Research Affiliates, Royce Investment Partners, Seafarer Capital Partners, and Women Investing in Security and Education.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Wealth Track. I'm Consuelo Mack. Social Security has become the cornerstone, if not the sole source of retirement funds for millions of Americans. 70.6 million people received benefits from the Social Security Administration in 2022, the latest figures available. 5.6 million beneficiaries were added that year. 55% of adult beneficiaries were women, and 55.6 years was the average age of individuals receiving disabled worker benefits. But the program is and has been under financial pressure for years. Although the most recent 2024 report from the highly respected Center for Retirement Research showed a slight improvement, a slight drop in the 75-year deficit for the program, it added that the depletion rate for the Retirement Trust Fund remains at 2033. That means if current trends continue and nothing is done, Social Security beneficiaries are facing a 21% cut in benefits in 2033. That's 9 years away. Over the course of Wealth Track's 20 seasons, one of our most popular and frequent guests has been Mary Beth Franklin, one of the country's foremost experts on Social Security. She's actually been called the Google of Social Security because she knows so much. Franklin is a certified financial planner, award-winning personal finance journalist, and the author of the ebook Maximizing Social Security Retirement Benefits. She is also host of a 1-hour public television special, Social Security and You. We are delighted to welcome Mary Beth back for an update on Social Security, and I started with its long-term financial condition. How bad is it?
We've known for more than 30 years that Social Security would eventually run out of sufficient funding. We are now within a decade of hitting that date. At the moment, it's thought to be 2033, when the money collected from FICA payroll taxes alone will not be sufficient to pay all the promised benefits. And without congressional action between now and then, everybody would take approximately a 20% across the board cut in benefits. I'm going to jump in and say, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Right.
In a worst case scenario, if nothing was done, there would still be enough money from ongoing payroll tax revenues to pay about 80% of promised benefits. But frankly, no one's going to be satisfied with 80%.
Right. So you just said that, but don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. So why do you have the confidence that, in fact, that the Social Security Trust Fund is not going to run out of money?
Pure politics. Face it, older people who tend to be Social Security beneficiaries tend to vote in higher percentages than any other voting bloc, and Congress knows that. I cannot foresee that sometime within the next 10 years, members of Congress will say, let's cut the benefits of approximately 70 million voters. I just don't see it happening. There are things that can be done to fix this situation. It just needs political will and guts, which are both in short supply right now.
What are the things that could be done, need to be done to basically save Social Security so that full benefits are paid for retirees ad infinitum?
Well, right now, the Social Security long-term financing problem comes down to two major problems. One is demographics, and the other is income inequality. So let me explain. The baby boom generation, huge and retiring in droves. There's more than 70 million baby boomers as retirees that are pulling money out of the system. while American fertility rates have dropped significantly. What it basically means is there are now fewer workers in the workforce paying taxes to support a growing number of retirees. At the moment, we're looking at 2 workers per 1 retiree. The other issue is who is paying taxes. Generally, almost all American workers pay FICA payroll taxes. Workers pay 6.2% of their gross wages up to a certain dollar limit, and that's matched by their employers. This year, that dollar limit is $168,000 and change. If you earn more than that, you are not paying FICA taxes on the excess amount. Let's go back to the last time we had Social Security reform back in 1983.
Alan Greenspan.
Alan
head of the
Greenspan Commission. They did brilliant things back there. And one of the things they said was as long as 90% of U.S. wages were being taxed for FICA payroll purposes, Social Security would never run out of money. The problem is so many Americans make so much more than that current cap of $168,000 that only 83% of U.S. wages are currently being taxed. So here we have a growing number of retirees, a shrinking workforce, and not enough, depending on your opinion, of U.S. wages are being taxed. So on one hand, you could say, let's take the cap off the taxable wage base, or let's raise the actual FICA tax rate. That's one possibility. Other people might say, well, maybe we need to cut back on future benefits. Maybe we change the way the cost of living adjustment formula is applied. Maybe we say that wealthy retirees don't get full Social Security benefits. You basically have 2 levers of revenues and benefits. In the past, there's usually been a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other, because frankly, Democrats hate benefit cuts, Republicans hate tax increases. They had to make sure that both parties were equally unhappy to reach a compromise. The problem is the deficit is going to be really big. And a lot of Social Security scholars are saying, you can't raise taxes fast enough, and it's not right to cut benefits because so many Americans rely on these benefits. So there is now some talk for the first time of maybe do we borrow some money from the general revenues? This has never been done before. Social Security has always been a self-financing system. So the question is, if you borrow from general revenues, are you then going to get stuck in the annual budget debate that Congress goes through? Up till now, Social Security has been exempt from those budget battles. And I want to throw in one idea. Going back to that Greenspan Commission back in 1983, the last time Social Security was really in danger of not being able to pay full benefits. They made some changes on the benefit and gradually raised the full retirement age to 67. But one of the things that was so smart, they looked 40 years into the future and said, when the baby boomers start retiring, we are going to need more money to pay benefits than we have now. So let's raise more money than we need, and we'll stockpile that money in the trust funds. And that worked through about 2010, where FICA taxes alone were enough to pay benefits. By 2010, we had to start tapping some of the interest that was earned on that trust funds. That worked till about 2021. COVID, lots of people lost their jobs, a lot of boomers retired, and for the first time, FICA taxes and interest on the Social Security trust funds alone were not sufficient to pay benefits. So now we started drawing down on the actual trust funds. There's still about $2.5 trillion in there, but if Congress does nothing and those trust funds are depleted sometime around 2033, that's when there would be only sufficient tax revenues to pay about 80% of benefits. So one of the ideas is, couldn't we invest that trust funds that still has about $2.5 trillion in it in a way that would earn a higher rate of return?
Right now, the stock market is one of the suggestions, right?
Exactly, because right now those trust funds are invested in special interest government bonds that no other entity can invest in, but only returns about 2.25% interest, 2.4% interest.
And are not keeping up with inflation.
Exactly. So if we could invest some of that money for a higher return, we buy ourselves some more time. But the problem is, if you wait 10 years when that trust fund is now depleted, there is no principal to earn income on. So the sooner we do something with the trust fund reserves as far as being able to invest them in a different way, the better off we would be.
In the meantime, is there anything that we should be doing to protect ourselves?
Well, I have a couple thoughts. One is for near and current retirees. Congress has never cut benefits. Now, the past is not necessarily prologue here, but I find it very hard to believe that Congress would allow benefit cuts for existing or near retirees who are betting on this estimated benefits. Now, if I'm a younger worker, if I'm in my 40s and even early 50s, I would work with my financial advisor and say, worst case scenario, can you look at my future retirement income plan and say, what would happen if I took a 20% cut in my Social Security benefits, not my entire retirement income plan? Because hopefully you have a 401k, maybe you have a pension, maybe you have some sort of investment. So what if one piece of that retirement income plan, the Social Security portion, suffered a 20% cut? What would that do to my future retirement plan? And if so, what can I do now in terms of more savings or different ways of investing those savings to make sure I have an extra little bump in the future? The other thing I would say, and one of my big concerns and what makes me very angry with our lawmakers right now, is because they are dragging their feet on this very important Social Security financing issue. I am finding more and more people as they reach retirement age are saying, you know what? I'm going to grab my Social Security benefits as early as I can at 62, even though I know my benefits are going to be reduced for the rest of my life because I'm worried Congress won't fix this in time and I want to get my benefits while I can. Well, my answer to that is, if you need the money in retirement, certainly go ahead and claim your Social Security benefit. However, if you are talking about claiming your benefits early, simply out of fear because you don't know what's going to happen, to me, that's like taking your stock portfolio and after the market goes down 30%, cashing out. The only thing you have guaranteed is you have now locked in a loss. Because think of this. If I'm born in 1960 or later, my full retirement age is 67. I can claim at 62, but if I do, that's 5 years before my full retirement age, and it means I am going to take a 30% cut in my benefits for the rest of my life.
Right, and explain how that works, Mary Beth.
Exactly. The idea of collecting Social Security benefits at your full retirement age is you would receive 100% of the benefits you have been promised based on your average lifetime earnings and the amount of time you've been paying Social Security taxes. You can claim benefits early, but if you do, you are not going to get 100% of those benefits that you would at your full retirement age. If you claim early, those benefits are reduced because now you will get a smaller benefit, but presumably for a longer period of time. So if my full retirement age is 67 and I claim 5 years early at 62, I am now taking a 30% cut for the rest of my life. On the other hand, if I was willing and able to delay claiming Social Security up until age 70, now I get this huge bonus, 8% per year for every year I postpone benefits beyond my full retirement age up until age 70. So if my full retirement age is 67 and I wait 3 years until age 70, that's 8% a year, that's an extra 24% in benefits for the rest of my life. But the big image I want to leave with your viewers is the difference between claiming as soon as possible at age 62, which in this case would be 70% of your benefits, versus as late as possible at age 70, where you'd get 124% of your benefits. That means a 76% 7% increase in your monthly Social Security benefits for the rest of your life. As a certified financial planner, there is no investment I can recommend to you that is guaranteed to increase 70% essentially over an 8-year period.
So, moral of this story is don't claim early and claim as late as you possibly can, which would be at age 70.
For some people, waiting till 70 is not right for everybody, but there are many cases where it makes sense.
Talk to us about married couple strategies.
Why I always encourage married couples to think of their Social Security claiming decisions as a household decision rather than two individual people. Because in a typical couple today, you probably have had both a husband and wife that have an earning history of their own. And the fact that they're married to each other, when one person claims a Social Security retirement benefit, it is possible that the other one is entitled to a spousal benefit. A spousal benefit is worth up to half of the full retirement age amount of the other spouse. But while there were fancier strategies in the past that we can use, most of these loopholes have been closed. And you would only be entitled to a spousal benefit if it was larger than your own retirement benefit. Or let's say, in the case of a stay-at-home spouse, if the husband claims his benefit, I don't have enough earnings history on my own record, I am entitled to a spousal benefit once he claims. But truly, most spouses today tend to have their own earning histories. What I say to most married couples is it makes most sense for the spouse that has the bigger Social Security benefit, which traditionally has been the husband, who is traditionally a few years older. If that husband can wait up until age 70 to maximize his retirement benefits, it means once he starts claiming while both spouses are alive, you're going to get this bigger benefit. Once he dies, which again is actuarially likely because he's a man and because he's probably a few years older, if he dies, then that benefit he was receiving becomes the survivor benefit for his widow. And if she was receiving her own retirement benefit, that smaller benefit goes away. So that's the major claiming strategy for married couples, is have one wait till 70 if possible to create the largest possible retirement benefit while they're both alive and potentially the largest possible survivor benefit when he dies. Now, having said that, if the wife has a smaller benefit, and let's say she's 62 and she's no longer working, she may want to go ahead and collect that reduced retirement benefit on her own record. And even though that retirement benefit for her is permanently reduced for the rest of her life, if her husband dies first, she's going to step up to this bigger survivor benefit, and that smaller retirement benefit goes away. But in the meantime, it's brought some money into the household and takes away a bit of the sting of having the couple wait for age 70 for that bigger benefit. So that's a good way to coordinate them. As you and I know, one of my favorite things to talk about is what should divorced ex-spouses do.
Oh, no, I love this. And we've gotten so many great responses over the years. So you had mentioned just a couple of minutes ago that the Social Security Administration has closed a number of loopholes. But for divorced spouses, tell us what the rules are, because it's something that can still work to the benefit of a certain ex.
Absolutely. And the fact is, so many divorced spouses don't realize that they may be entitled to Social Security benefits on their ex's earnings records. Now, let me preface this by saying Social Security is complicated. There are more than 2,700 rules that govern Social Security benefits, and those rules have a lot of exceptions, and many of the exceptions apply to divorced spouses. So here's the basic. As long as you were married at least 10 years, divorced, and currently single, you may be able to collect Social Security retirement benefits on your ex's earnings record if that benefit as an ex-spouse is higher than your own earnings record. So let's say your ex-husband's benefits are $3,000 a month at his full retirement age, and yours are $1,000 a month. Well, half of $3,000 is $1,500. That's larger than your own benefit. You're entitled to that larger benefit. I did mention earlier that for a currently married couple, for one spouse to collect a spousal benefit, the other spouse actually has to claim to trigger a spousal benefit to create that spousal amount. Well, you can imagine in a nasty divorce situation that one ex-spouse might say to the other, I am never going to retire, and you are never going to get a dime of my Social Security. Well, Congress thought that might be a problem. So here's one of the exceptions. In addition to being married at least 10 years, divorced, and currently single, if you have been divorced for at least 2 years and you were both at least 62 years old, meaning eligible for Social Security, you may be able to collect on your ex's earning record, even if your ex has not yet claimed. You are considered an independently entitled spouse. And it doesn't matter if your ex remarries. It only matters that you are currently single to be able to collect on that ex's earnings record if that benefit is larger than your own. So here's another exception. I just told you, you have to be married at least 10 years, divorced, currently single, to be able to collect on your ex. Well, that's only on your living ex. If you waited till age 60 or later to remarry, you can't collect on a living ex, but you can collect on a dead ex, even if you're married to somebody else. So imagine this. Yes.
No, you can collect on your dead ex.
Exactly.
Okay.
And here's the important part. A spousal benefit while your ex is alive is worth 50% of your ex's full retirement age benefit. But a survivor benefit after he dies is worth 100% of what he was collecting at the time of death. So your ex is worth twice as much dead than alive. But you probably knew that anyway. So the key thing all your viewers have to remember is if your marriage is falling apart in years 8 and 9, string out the paperwork because you must be married at least 10 years. And the important dates are the date you were married and the date of your final divorce decree. Think of it this way. There must be at least a decade between I do and I don't. One day short and you will get squat. But here's the secondary part. If you plan to take a second trip down the aisle, wait till 60 or later to do it, because you might be able to collect a survivor benefit if your ex dies first, even if you're married to someone else. Whenever you're entitled to more than one Social Security benefit, say you've remarried at age 60, you have your own retirement benefit worth a certain amount of money, you're married to a new spouse, you might have a spousal benefit on his record, and then your ex-husband dies. You have a survivor benefit. You can only get one, but you can get the biggest of those benefits. And as the situation changes, maybe you're remarried at age 60 or later, and your first ex dies and you now collect his survivor benefit, and then your current husband dies and his survivor benefit is bigger, you can switch to that bigger benefit. So all this is why I tell ex-spouses to stalk their exes on Facebook so they know when they're dead.
I was going to say, keep tabs on your ex, even if you don't like him or her. No question, it can pay off. So, Mary Beth, one investment for a long-term diversified portfolio, what is the one thing we should own or invest in?
Well, I'm going to think of a holistic view of retirement income. And some of that income, in my opinion, should be guaranteed or predictable. Social Security for most people is the biggest chunk of that guaranteed income. And in some cases, the only form of guaranteed income they can count on the rest of their lives, no matter how long they live. So I think it's worth investing your time, whether on your own or with a financial advisor, to make sure you are maximizing those Social Security benefits.
Mary Beth Franklin, thank you so much for joining us on Wealth Track. You have helped us so much over the years. 20 years, you've been with us since the beginning.
Thank you, Consuelo. I am always thrilled to be a guest on your program. I appreciate you getting the word out of how important Social Security benefits are to the typical American retiree and what they can do to maximize those benefits over their lifetime.
At the close of every wealth trick, we try to give you one suggestion to help you build and protect your wealth over the long term. This week's action point is a no-brainer for most of us. This week's action point is delay claiming Social Security benefits for as long as possible. As Franklin just discussed, you are required to claim them by age 70, but for every year you wait from your full retirement age when you can claim your benefits until 70, you gain an extra 8% a year in income for the rest of your life. And with Social Security's annual cost of living increases, that income boost is on top of a bigger annual base. Now, we just discussed circumstances when waiting to claim your benefits might not make sense, but for most of us, baby boomers especially, whose full retirement age starts at 66, 8% a year for those 4 years until 70 adds up to a 32% raise in income payments for life. It is hard to match that anywhere else. Well, next week we analyze the outlook for Berkshire beyond Buffett and now without Munger in part 2 of our interview with Lawrence Cunningham. In this week's extra feature, Mary Beth will tell us what a skiing accident taught her about retirement planning. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, X, and our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Have a lovely weekend and make the week ahead a healthy, profitable, and productive one.